I've used these structures back to back in interviews, and it feels good because you can practice it. You know exactly what you're going to say, and you're going to come across as organised and articulate. Hello Dr. Humans, welcome back to the channel. I am so excited about this upcoming season here on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who contributed their ideas for content. I am currently cooking so many things of a renal and immunology flavour so we can get this written exam done. And also what's true is that since I released my medical job application series, I've had a few of you reach out behind the scenes asking for further advice about interviews. And so I wanted to give you some ideas on how you might answer some common interview questions which come up all the time. Now, of course, your answers are going to be unique to you. And so what I would like you to do is combine these ideas with some serious brainstorming, as well as talking to yourself about yourself in the mirror, or to a friend if you're comfortable, but I often find that a bit awkward. Okay, so for your interviews, I'm going to give you two structures across two videos, and both of those structures I got a long time ago from this book on medical interviews. So whilst this chit chat has come from my head today, it only got in there because once upon a time I read this book. So I just wanted to give that credit where credit's due. So the first structure is the CAP structure. Clinical, academic, personal structure. This works really well for 2 or 3 particular questions that come up in most interviews, usually right at the start of the interview. So questions like, why this hospital? Why do you want to work here? Why this specialty? Or why are you the best person for the position? Now that last question might come across directly like that, you know, why are you the best person? Or it can be disguised as something more subtle like, tell us about yourself. Now, in an interview, if someone asks you to tell us about yourself, they are really asking you for your career highlights as opposed to who you are as a human being. So it's not about your hobbies and interests. You might want to throw some of them in there right at the end, but it's really about what you can bring to the role, your career highlights. Basically, this is just your cover letter in a verbalized sort of format. Now, for those of you who have experienced my workshop, Rock Your Cover Letter, some of these aspects are going to be familiar to you, right? Because we've already touched on these. Why the hospital? Why are you the best person for the job? And we've brainstormed it all out so that you should have a fair idea of what you're going to say and a few things ready to go. But this is a great opportunity to expand on those ideas and to really infuse enthusiasm and authenticity into your answers. So this structure of clinical, academic and personal can be used to answer all of those questions that I mentioned. And having a structure gives you handy headings or signposts to work through. So for example, why this hospital? I would say something like, there are so many reasons why such and such hospital is my first choice for specialty training, and I can divide these into clinical, academic and vocational reasons. Okay, so you've lined it up. The interviewer is now ready to hear you work through those headings and they're waiting. They're going to give you lots of space and time. And now you just use those signposts as you work through your unique reasons for why you want to work at that hospital, why that specialty, etc. So what I want you to do when you're preparing for your interviews is to brainstorm under those headings. Why would you want to go to this hospital? Here are some ideas. Clinically, there may be a particular training opportunity there, particular subspecialties that interest you, some clinical experience that you want to be exposed to during your training. You might also talk about the inspiring senior medical staff that you'd love to learn from. And this is also a great place to talk about the supportive learning environment and culture of the hospital. For academic, you might talk about research opportunities at the hospital, or your wishes to continue a research project that you already started at this hospital. And if you want more guidance on what to say around research in your job applications and interviews, definitely go ahead and check out another YouTube video I have on medical job applications relating to research. I'll leave a link to that below as well, and you can check that out. But the key message in that video is that you have to be able to talk enthusiastically about research in your interviews and cover letters, whether you love it or loathe it. So if that strikes a chord, definitely check out that video for more detail. And finally, for personal reasons. That might be something pertaining to the location of the hospital and why you want to work in that particular geographical area, or it could be due to a personal connection with the hospital, a family member that's been looked after there, or why you think you might thrive there particularly. And if you're struggling to connect a personal reason to this hospital, then this is a great place to talk about culture and values. So every hospital has a statement of values which represents the cultural undertone of what they're trying to achieve there. And so you might want to talk about how those hospital values align with your own values and how because of that you feel that you'd fit in here, you'll thrive here in this wonderful, wonderful place. So that's the CAP structure for why the hospital. So be sure to brainstorm that out and practice speaking to it before your interview. And make sure that you do know the hospital values before your interview, because sometimes that even comes up as a separate question altogether. So be ready to rhyme that off on demand. And now that you've seen that example, you can start to brainstorm your answers to the other questions using those headings. Why you? Why this specialty? And so on and so forth. Now, in the interview, you might worry that this will be repetitive, right? What if they ask you 2 of these in a row and you'll be like, oh, I can't use the structure twice in a row, right? But the truth is you can, I have, and it's totally fine. So if you've been asked why the hospital and you chit chat about that, clinical, academic and personal reasons, then they ask you, why are you the best person for the job? You can still go ahead and say, I believe I'm an excellent candidate for this position and bring many strengths, which I could similarly divide into clinical, academic and personal strengths, and then chat through those sections, or whatever words are organic to you. Find a way to say it that sounds nice to you. Or if you want to shake it up and you don't want to use those headings out loud, you can instead say something like, I have a number of strengths that I could bring to the role, and then chat through those strengths, perhaps using those different categories in your mind, but you don't actually have to say them out loud. That's another way around it. But honestly, I've used these structures back to back in interviews, and it feels good because you can practice it. You know exactly what you're going to say, and you're going to come across as organised and articulate. The use of a structure in your interview will not be penalised, right? And of course, in these different questions, you have different things to say, right? So sure, the headings are the same, but talking about your strengths is going to sound so different from when you're talking about the hospital, right? And how you align with the hospital. So it's usually not too much of a problem, but play around with it, speak it out loud and see what works for you. But whatever you do, I want you to have those prepped and rehearsed. Now, just to be completely transparent, I have on occasion come across very well in interviews. But this was only because for hours, if not days, I spent lots of time rehearsing things I might say. Now, inevitably, when you're in an interview, they'll ask you something you haven't rehearsed. But even when that happens, the very fact that you have been memorising your strengths and examples of things and practicing talking through things means that you'll be in interview mode, right? You're going to be better at speaking in interview speak, which, let's be honest, is the most professional version of ourselves outside of a family meeting, right? But the other thing is that the first impressions are everything. If you nailed the first couple of questions on why the hospital and why you're going to have made an impression already. And if you stumble a little beyond that, it's not as devastating as if you had stumbled from the very beginning, right? So that's why these questions are great to have prepared, because they are usually asked in most interviews in some form, and it'll stand you in good stead and set you up well and make you feel more confident and relaxed. So it is true that interview practice is helpful and it gets you so far. It is also true that you're likely to come out of your interview and have significant flashbacks to things that you said that you think, oh good heavens, why did I say that? That's just the nature of the situation. So go ahead, get all that down on paper and rehearse your little heart out talking about yourself in the mirror. And of course, if you do have a job application coming up soon and you would like some help with your cover letter, including seeing my real life cover letter that I use to get into advanced training, then come along to Rock Your Cover Letter, where I will show you how to write a cover letter paragraph by paragraph. And I'll also teach you how to spin anything into absolute gold. So anything you might see as a weakness, something you're insecure about, I'm going to show you how to flip that script and portray everything as a strength. Because the truth is, there is nothing average about you, and you have unlimited potential. So if that sounds like something you need in your life, come along to Rock Your Cover Letter, and I'll leave a link to that below. And otherwise, stay tuned for part 2 when I'll be giving you tips on how to answer those questions on your biggest weaknesses or when you've made a mistake. And we have a whole other structure for that. I really hope that gave you a few ideas as you work towards your upcoming job applications, and I hope you have a great week. See you soon. Bye.